All right. We're back. Listen, I want to caution you, do not miss the fourth segment of today's show. When you find out what they have got planned for you with the National Defense Authorization Act, it's going to floor you. The new edition of what they're going to do to us in the National Defense Authorization Act and how it correlates into all of the NSA spying that's been going on by not only the NSA but the FBI domestically. When you find out what they've got planned for you in the brand new National Defense Authorization Act, this is the same one that gave us the ability for the government to indefinitely detain American citizens without access to the courts, without habeas corpus rights, without legal counsel, and they can detain you indefinitely based on, quote, a belligerent act. Nothing defines belligerence. And you can never get to court to get a judge to say that is or is not belligerence. So if you get where I'm headed here, this is a gulag system in the making. And when you find out in segment 4 what the NDAA is now importing or adding in as an addition to the 2012 and 2013 National Defense Authorization Acts, you're going to be floored. All right. Let's talk about the issue of these congressmen who want to bring Obama to court for not faithfully executing the laws, which is his constitutional duty. And it's pretty much the only one that is outlined that he is mandated to accomplish. The Constitution says in Article 2, Section 3, he shall from time to time give to Congress information of the state of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses, or either of them, and in case of disagreement between them with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. Here it comes. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and he shall commission all the officers of the United States. That's the constitutional phrase that mandates that the president must ensure that every existing law that is in play must be faithfully executed. Now, that flies in the face directly of what he's done with the DREAM Act, what he's been doing with immigration, what he's been doing with the Obamacare debacle, where he's bypassed it 17 times, giving out waivers and benefits, extending the windows, without congressional oversight, without congressional review or approval. Nobody's looking at this. Now, here's the problem, folks. Only 30 members of the House resolution are calling for civil action. Only 30. For the record, let's remember that there are 435 of them that sit on this in the House. 435 members, and only 30 are stepping up to support this House resolution. Congressman Tim Rice, he's out of South Carolina. He's a Republican. He's sponsoring this resolution. And if it's adopted, what it would do is bring a civil action for declaratory or injunctive relief to challenge certain policies and actions taken by the executive branch. End quote. Now, what that means is that they want to take Obama to court and get the court to say, you have not followed the law. You have an obligation under the Constitution to do so, and you must, going forward, follow the law. It's an injunction or a declaratory or an injunctive relief challenge would essentially say that you have not done this and you must do this, and the court would order that that be accomplished. In and of itself, that should tell you something. If the court has to order the president to follow the Constitution, we are already living in a period of lawlessness that is unprecedented in the United States of America. Wherein ever before have we had to have a court, which is theoretically lower than the executive, although supposed to be an oversight watchdog against executive overreach, have to step in and tell a president, you are breaking the law and you must follow the Constitution as required, without an actual removal or impeachment of that president. The problem is we can't impeach him. There's a couple of reasons why, but not the least of which is that because of the fact that the only way to impeach him is to have Eric Holder from the Department of Justice appoint a special prosecutor. Now, if you expect that Eric Holder is going to appoint anyone who is going to be objective in really investigating this president and has the power of subpoena where you can actually subpoena a president to testify under oath, you're dreaming. And it would require that the Senate concur. In other words, the way impeachment works is the House writes up articles of impeachment. It then has a vote on that. Does the House in a majority believe that the president should be impeached? Then the president goes to trial, and the trial is held at the Senate, and the person who sits over the trial as the judge is actually the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, which in this case would be John Roberts. And we've already seen some very dirty, shenanigans on John Roberts' part in reference to the Obamacare debacle. So here's the problem. We cannot impeach this guy because we can't get enough votes in the Senate to approve an impeachment. The only guy who could sit over it as a judge has already shown us that he's been co-opted and coerced and corrupted. I don't know how they got to him, but somehow or other they got to him. And at this stage in the game, the only thing that they can do is bring him to court and get the court to order him to start following the law, which would theoretically give them the right to go back and say all of this DREAM Act and illegal immigration and Obamacare nonsense that he's done, not to mention dozens of other unconstitutional actions he's taken to void out laws that exist, would all be, for all intents and purposes, overturned. He's telling the Border Patrol not to isolate and secure people coming across the border. He's telling them to release people. He's telling that the Immigration and ICE and Border Patrol that these people between certain ages can be left here, that they can't be kicked out of the country, and blah, 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 blah. He has repeatedly given unconstitutional waivers and changed the timelines on when Obamacare kicks in. These are just the latest issues that are happening every day. There has been a host of them over the past 5 years that, if dragged into this, would equate, I don't even know how many incidents there are. Where we are at this point is that we cannot get this guy impeached. And there's another question about impeachment out there, which is that, and this hinges on the issue of whether or not he's even legitimately the president. And I know that people will be out there saying, oh, my goodness, here he goes, he's a birther. Well, I can tell you that personally, I've seen his birth certificate, and I've seen the evidence that shows that it was manufactured. The one that you've seen was manufactured with Photoshop. The business that I own on a day in and day out basis is a web development business. That's what I do to feed my family. This is voluntary. This is my Paul Revere moment. And I work with Photoshop every day. And I'm telling you right now that they were so inept at the way that they accomplished it that they didn't, when you take Photoshop, you put layers of things on top of other layers. And then when you're all done with it, you flatten it and it looks like a solid document. Whoever did the work was so sloppy about it, so inept, so incompetent, that they never flattened the document, which would have barred you from ever seeing that these layers were applied. And the truth is, the layers can easily be peeled away, and you can see where they instituted and put a date in. You can see where they applied a signature that didn't exist before. For the record, by the way, the woman in Hawaii who was the person who was responsible for releasing this was the only one who died in a plane crash yesterday. Out of a bunch of people on the plane, she's the only one who died. Now, I don't know that there's a connection there. I'm just saying, everything at this point is so open to, I don't know, everything is so open to question, because at this stage in the game, there's nothing that we can apparently trust that's going on in our nation. So here's the question. Where are the other 405 members of Congress on this bill? Where are the other remaining Republicans? You see, what I'm trying to get you to understand here is not the fact that Obama's going to be taken to court. I hope they're successful with it. Because if nothing else, what it will do is slow down the rate at which the tyranny is occurring here. Only because, it's like giving him a flat tire on his bicycle. It doesn't bring the bicycle to a halt, but it sure slows it down a little bit. But the real question here is, should you look at Republicans, which you've traditionally supported all your life, in a brand new light? The light being that, in 2010, the nation, for all intents and purposes, peacefully stood up and revolted and inserted a whole bunch of Tea Party conservatives into the House. The goal was to put people in play who would say, we're not going to play by the normal party rules, quote unquote. We're going to vote outside of what the party tells us to do because the party's clearly not representing us anymore. Now, unfortunately, a lot of these people have been absorbed into the Republican Party. They've been annexed in. And either they have been co-opted, they've been coerced, they've been threatened, cajoled, or maybe they've been threatened with the idea that, some secret of theirs will be revealed. And many of them have actually capitulated now and have, joined the mainstream. They've left their roots. It got them in there, but now they've turned around and betrayed those roots and have failed to accomplish the task, which is to go in there, be swallowed by the dragon, and then pull out your double-edged sword and begin to slice away at the beast from the inside. That's the goal. That was the idea. That was the premise. Some of them have been digested by the beast. So the question for you is, to ask yourself is, one, should this be an abject lesson in betrayal for me? Because these Republicans have, for all intents and purposes, done nothing different than all the other Republican administrations behind them. The Republicans that are in office now, who have been in there for more than one term, have, for all intents and purposes, completely abdicated any level of responsibility to the American population. They truly have. And some of those that are in there since 2010 have accomplished the same thing, the same betrayal. There are a few stalwarts. We know of at least 30 right here. There are those members that are fighting for the right thing. I got to applaud, and you all know I'm from Missouri. And if you're not from Missouri and you're listening to this program, just live with this for a minute. Jason Smith, who is the congressional representative for the 8th District, that's where I live, he was put into place as a backfill for Joanne Emerson, who had spent 17 years as betraying our state for all intents and purposes. She got elected in, and as part of that election, she knew that she was about to take a job for multi-millions of dollars for a lobbying group. But they didn't really want this incumbent, or they didn't want a challenger to beat her in the general election. So they made her run anyway because they were guaranteed that she would win because she's an incumbent and 86% of incumbents win. It wasn't 30 days after the election, folks, that she announced her retirement, her resignation. And so the state of Missouri was forced to find a new candidate that could backfill the post. Jason Smith was the one that the Republican Party chose. The Republican Party betrayed the constituents in the state, and instead of making it an open primary, the party chose who the candidate was going to be. That was a complete dereliction of duty on the Republican Party side. The guy that they chose was Jason Smith. Jason, yesterday, voted no on the budget. My applause for Mr. Smith for doing the right thing. Irrespective of how he got into that office, I have to tell you, there have been some things that he's been doing that I am absolutely grateful for. Now, it remains to be seen. Can he continue this momentum? Can he continue to stand up to the pressure and the power and the influence and the corruption? I don't know. But as of right now, I've been watching some of the things that he's doing very carefully. And I got to tell you, he's been doing the right things for the most part. He's made a couple of votes I wasn't real kicked about. But when it comes down, when push comes to shove, he's been doing the right thing. This is, by the way, one of the reasons why I don't endorse a candidate. Because when that candidate does the right thing, I want to applaud him. I want to give him kudos. I want to say publicly, this guy's done the right thing. This girl's done the right thing. When that candidate does the wrong thing, I don't want to hold their feet to the fire. I want to put their feet in the fire. I want to be just as bold, just as outspoken, and just as brash about their wrong or right decisions and votes as I am going to be about the opposite. And so I got to tell you, right now, it looks like Smith has actually done the right thing on a number of very important votes. For the record, he's blocked me from posting on his Facebook page, which I consider censorship. So, Mr. Smith, you and I know you and your staff watch this program, or at least capture sections of it. Reinstitute my ability to post on your Facebook page. That is a crime against the citizens of the state of Missouri to do that. That is the one thing which I will not allow you to get away with. You've blocked my ability to post on your Facebook page because I did post one thing on there that was the negative about you. That, sir, is censorship. Fix it. You've got an opportunity to do so right now, putting it out there in the public sphere. You've blocked my ability to communicate with you and allow the other citizens to hear my voice, which you may not like because it's critical of you sometimes. But it's also very positive. And today, truthfully, I would have gone onto your page today and I would have put kudos up on your page for you doing the right thing. But you've blocked me from saying the good things as well as the bad. And that's a mistake. Not to mention the fact that it brings into question my ability to trust you as a legislator. That's my personal message. You've done the right thing on this budget thing. And I got to tell you, I'm going to be calling your office today to see if you're one of these people who's going to support this resolution. I don't know the names of them all yet, but I will find out. Now, back to the rest of America. Here's my question to you. What are you going to do about the 405 legislators that are not signing on to this? You see, you need to be in touch with your representatives and saying, this bill is one I want you to follow. This bill is one I want you to support. This bill is one that I'm expecting you to stand up and vote positively on. This resolution alleges that Obama and his administration have abused executive power and have failed to execute the laws of the United States faithfully. Ladies and gentlemen, not even the Democrats can reasonably argue that that's not the case. They have to admit it because it's fact. So the resolution, because they can't call for criminal action, is calling for civil action. And they're asking for the district court in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, U.S. District Court, for a declaratory or injunctive relief. So here's a few of the bullets out of it. The policy of the Department of Health and Human Services with respect to health insurance coverage that is renewed for a policy year beginning January 1 and ending October 1. So basically they're claiming that this is one of the items that the extensions, essentially, that he's been doing under Obamacare. 2, the one-year delay in the application of the reporting requirements of Section 6055 and 6056 of the Internal Revenue Code. 3, the policy of the Department of Homeland Security to exercise prosecutorial discretion with respect to individuals who come to the United States as children. That's the DREAM Act issue. 4, the authorization, approval, renewal, modification, or extension of any experimental, pilot, or demonstration project under 1115 of the Social Security Act that waives compliance with a requirement of Section 407 of such act. I mean, do you hear this stuff, by the way, folks? You hear the legalese gamesmanship in here? and they wonder why Americans just have zero faith in them. In plain English, here's what it is. He announced the administrative fix in regard to the canceled health care plans. He did that. He made that decision unilaterally without involving Congress. He approved a 1-year delay in Obamacare's employer mandate without involving Congress. Last year, he granted the temporary status to illegal aliens who entered the United States without involving Congress, essentially. And the fourth one is he provided a waiver initiative for welfare work requirement under TANF without involving Congress. That happened a while ago. That was about a year and a half ago. Essentially, what he said is that the requirement that if you're on welfare, you've got to work was null and void. That you could be on welfare and not work. Now, the co-sponsors of this thing, and I've got a list of them up here, by the way. I've pulled them up. They are Bachmann, Bridenstine, Chaffetz, Duncan, DeSantis, Franks, Gowdy, Harris, Lamborn, LaMalfa, Marino, McClintock, Meadows, Nunelli, Pittenger, Posey, Price, Ribble, Salmon, Sanford, Schweikert, Stewart, Stockman, Wahlberg, Weber, Wenstrup, Williams, Joe Wilson, and Yoho from Florida. So the question I have is, where are the other 405 members? I grant you some of them are Democrats. They're not going to sign on to this because it would be a breach. Not only it would be a breach of their party affiliation. Is that the government we really want, ladies and gentlemen? One where the party is more important than following the law? One where the party overrides the law, whether Republican or Democrat? Is that fair? Is that right? Is that righteous? Is that following the law at all? Is that following their oath that they've sworn to uphold the Constitution? Not hardly. The truth is, we have completely seen Congress failing. And I got to tell you, we're down to the last 2 minutes of this program. So let me ask you this. If Congress has an 8% approval rating, 8%, folks, that's the Friends and Family Plan. When you calculate 8% of the voting population, that is the people who actually are in Congress, are families of Congress, direct friends, or direct beneficiaries. Nobody else likes them. So if that's in fact the case, that only 8% of the country supports Congress, how is it that 86% of all incumbents constantly get reelected? How is it that your representative will most likely get reelected even when he or she has violated the oath of office that they have taken to preserve and defend and protect the Constitution of the United States and to preserve and protect the citizenry from government? That is government's only function. To accomplish a world where freedom and self-governance rule and government simply puts in line the boundaries of what that should be and acts on our behalf to ensure that. So when a robbery occurs, when a murder occurs, etc. But the rest of government's job is to actually protect us from government's overreach and outgrowth. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where every Congress for the past 200 years has abjectly failed. And that's why when you hear things like from Thomas Jefferson where he says, let's forget men's ethics, but let's bind them down with the chains of a constitution, that's why he said that. Because men cannot be trusted to do the right thing. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to tackle our third subject. The NSA Oversight Committee is actually receiving bribes from the intelligence companies and corporations that they're supposed to be watchdogging. Holy smoke. You got to be kidding me. Talk about a conflict of interest. So the same companies that are supposed to be in Overwatch are actually donating to the re-election campaigns of the people that are watching over them. Somewhere I smell a rat. We'll be right back.